Hello, this is Coach Tim Campsell, and I'm your host for the Self-Made as a Myth, Make a Difference Together show, where we're talking with successful business owners to hear their stories of the journey to building their business. And because we know that achieving success in business is not something we can do on our own, we recognize the folks that helped us excel. I'm excited to have a fellow Indiana business owner from the senior care industry with us today. My guest is the owner of Halo Senior Solutions located in Carmel. He's a fellow child of God, a family man, and has a servant heart towards the aging. Please join me in welcoming Todd to the show today.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. I'm so glad to be with you.
Awesome. Well, let's start with having you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit of your personal story.
Sure. So Todd Howard, born and bred Hoosier, grew up on the southwest side in Mars Hill. I was born there, and then when I was 11 years old, moved to Jasper, Indiana, a couple hours south, and so got on my formidable bad habits down there, and then went to school to Ball State. And then after that, went on a tour of different cities across America, for the most part in a couple of different industries, automated payroll for paychecks, and then commercial printing, managing large national retail campaigns and promotions. That took me from here to Milwaukee to San Francisco, and then ultimately Southern California, where I met my wife. And so today, married to Kristen for 23 years, and we have a 21-year-old son and 18-year-old daughter named Mackenzie. So, and at this point, we are without dog, but that may be the only time in our marriage we've been without dog. So.
Milwaukee, I spent a few years up there as well.
Great place. Great place. You know, the thing I say about Milwaukee is loved my time there. It was 2 years. And I just always say, you know, everybody forgets Milwaukee's on a lake too. It just, you know, it's like, so you forget that, oh yeah. And so I was fortunate to be single and young, and I lived in the downtown Third Ward area, which was right across from the Summerfest grounds. So it's like I literally had concerts in my window every night. So great time.
Yes.
Great people.
When I moved there from Canada, I also lived downtown. And was single, so I got a jet ski and spent a lot of time out on the water.
Good thinking, very good thinking.
So Todd, tell us, what is a funny story that your family likes to tell about you that you'd be willing to share?
This one is, well, it's risque for a 5-year-old. So, you know, back in the early 70s, you know, when you were in kindergarten, the teachers would sometimes have you lay down on long construction paper, and, you know, they'd make an outline of you. So, and then it was up to you to, you know, color it in and give yourself your face and your clothing. So I did mine one day, and I remember then bringing it home to show Mom, so proud. And I took creative license, I have no idea to this day, to draw Todd's anatomically correct member all the way down the page, kind of up below my foot, and kind of back up around my knee. And my mom was literally mortified when I roll this thing out, and your 5-year-old just so proud, and she's like, you know, and I just remember that being, you know, some to do. And of course she kept it. So it's in the cedar chest, you know, Todd's imagination. It has been that way his whole life. So anytime I get a little boisterous, you know, the siblings knock me down on reality. Oh, is that like your kindergarten picture reel or the other reel? Yeah. So a proud moment as a 5-year-old.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing. So tell us how the business came about. At what point did you have the confidence that you could run your own business?
You know, the confidence that I could run my own probably started early on from high school days. We had a chance to go to Germany or to Europe as a choir in high school. And, it was either you can pay this amount, or if you can't afford that, you can, sell candles, to help make up the difference.
Yes.
I said, well, I certainly can't afford that, so I'll go sell candles because I want to do this. And so I started out on this selling candles thing, and we're done. And I did it. And to me, it was like just walking. It was the easiest thing ever. And it paved the way to Germany. And so I thought right then and there, I think that was my freshman year, I thought, God, when I got to go to school, I'll probably study whatever that was, because that seemed like a piece of cake. So I think I've always known that I was a decent salesperson, no fear to talk to people and engage them. And so after, like I said, a career in, for the most part, commercial printing, I was working for a first generation family that was about to go to the second. I loved the first and wasn't so sure about the second. So I was talking to my wife, who was already in real estate, and she said, I think you should go into real estate. And I said, just the transactional portion alone wouldn't do anything for me. It would bore me to tears. But I said, I'd have to find another passion that was related. So, quick set of things happened. I decided to go into it. And then I realized, one, where we live, it seemed like there was a retirement community going up every 5 feet. And that was, to me, like the business mind was kicking, but I was like, I don't know why that is. Certainly northern Indiana full of snow, or middle Indiana is not a destination place for seniors. And then I started talking to my brother, who's in that industry, and got a quick education on why there's so many being built, and talked to him about our own grandmother. We helped her move when she had Alzheimer's from a house that she'd been in forever. And long story short, he had said the process of moving a grandma into one of those buildings has not changed at all. And I was almost indignant. I was like, before, since internet and cell phone and everything, that from a tech standpoint, it's not gotten any easier. And he went on to explain why. And I thought, you know what, that's it. That is what I'm going to change. And so as a realtor, I went into the real estate and just said, you know what, I'm going to figure out a way to prove that we're such a different type of realtor, that we are uniquely suited to go call on these communities, build their trust, and then they'll refer us their new residents, and we'll ultimately get to help them sell their home. So that's where Halo's original foundation started. And so it's just morphed over the last 6 years, and, as we figured out what not to do and what to change.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Todd, tell us a little bit more about Halo. What's the business model?
So when we started, as I mentioned, we were primarily realtors. Mm-hmm. And so that started working. We spent our first year and a half doing nothing but get educated. In and out of, probably 25 doors a day, just getting our education on. And so referrals started picking up, and we were getting them from communities as well as elder law firms. Any type of community or senior professional that was in a position to have a relationship with a senior aged person and their family is somebody who was in a position to refer us if the family was going to have to deal with real estate. Mm-hmm. So what we learned about 3 years into it is one of my referral partners said, hey, it's too hard to get you into my clients. And I'm like, well, I don't understand. You do a great job of referring. And she said, go with me on this. The fact that you're a realtor or an agent has too much brand baggage. Like when I try to suggest to my client that the next step is we're going to have Todd and his company evaluate what you're doing. And she knew us really well. We do a lot of things other than just real estate. But she said, in spite of all that, the hands go up, I'm not ready for a realtor yet. Don't worry about it. I know a realtor. And on and on. And so I thought, God, if she's having this much trouble and she's actually a good referring partner, I got to fix that, because how many of my partners aren't telling me that it's a challenge? So together with her, she actually dropped on me the idea of, why don't you just become a senior transition company or create one? Because that's really what you already are. And you just insert the spoke of real estate when you need it and the other things. So that got me thinking. And so literally we immersed ourselves in that path for about 3 to 4 months to create Halo Senior Solutions. And so what we did was kind of break apart everything we thought was working and recreated Halo Senior Solutions, Halo Realty Group, and Halo Property Group. And all three of those work in conjunction to serve the family on a transition from here to here.
Yeah.
So
fantastic. So it sounds like she kind of inspired you to do more than you had originally planned to make a bigger impact. Is that fair?
absolutely fair. I mean, people say nowadays, how'd you come up with that? And I'm like, totally. And I wish I could take the credit for it, but it was, I think it was just being open to listening to a partner, somebody who's already, believing in you, working with you, to say, there's a different way. And yeah, we had no vision of creating this Halo thing. It was her idea. And over the last 3 years, we've really picked apart the why it works. So it's been kind of an amazing journey that was really never intended. I thought it'd just be dealing with homes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's fantastic of how she helped you to think bigger. So what's her name? Let's recognize her today.
Absolutely. Her name is Lisa Dillman. She's a local attorney, an elder law specialist in the Indianapolis area. And so she owns a firm now called Applegate and Dillman. And so she was extremely instrumental in the concept for Halo.
Fantastic. So Todd, been in business for a while. What's the biggest learning you've had as a business owner?
So, I think one of the things is I have to learn to get comfortable with messy. In some of the books that I read early on, in actually joining one of the real estate companies we joined early on was Keller Williams, and Gary Keller and Jay Pappison, wrote a couple of really successful books, and one of them was called The One Thing. And so that kept emphasizing, about how to work your day in a priority and thinking and acting in order of priority. And, it made the point, you got to get, the inbox is never going to be empty. You won't get all your nice little checklists done. Every day you wake up, it's going to be messy and get reorganized if you are really acting in order of priority. So, and I used to, kind of pride myself in I think I've got it all done. The desk is clear. And so that has really been a big learning point, adjusting to that, embracing that. Trying to think in terms of some of the other things, probably just getting comfortable with vulnerability. In learning. I know that, is a very hot topic today, but again, just if I can't learn to be more vulnerable, which opens the door for a dialogue with another business leader or a subordinate, or it just opens so many more doors of conversation and learning. But it just, it takes some getting used to. Yeah. It's a different kind of language.
Isn't it interesting that many of us have that perception that we shouldn't be vulnerable because of fear of what it's going to do. But the exact opposite is the truth, is the reality, right? The more vulnerable we are, to your point, the more doors that are open, the more people that say, you know what, I kind of relate to you and I want to work with you.
Absolutely. You nailed it on the head. I mean, they instantly can relate to you because of something you just said that was a little vulnerable. They instantly let that down their guard, and voila, you've got a connection, or at least an instant item to chat about.
Yeah. So Todd, we know that business success doesn't happen in isolation. So tell us about one of your biggest challenges during the years and a fellow business owner who helped you get through that.
Let me think. Speaking of vulnerability, I'll get a little vulnerable right here. So when I started it's been about 6-7 years ago, probably the first part of challenge was me getting sober, to be perfectly candid. It was at a point where I thought, if I'm going to go down this path, if it's going to be this kind of responsibility, all of it's going to be on you. You've got to get your own self priority and character traits in line. So that was certainly one of the biggest. And, some of the people who helped me with that, I'm in a group called Truth at Work, and it's about Christian business leaders that help you figure out how to keep Christ in your business or in your daily walk. And so they have been, when I say I think of them as a singular organization. I'm in a group of, probably 10 to 12 guys. They have been super instrumental in not only the support, but the bouncing off of, the idea exchange, the challenging you when, you're giving them the fluff answers.
Yeah.
They have certainly been instrumental in helping me grow and helping me prioritize and keep things in a positive way. I would say that another big faction has been our vendors. For us, the way Halo is set up is it's very referral based. So not only do the retirement communities and the connections there refer us, that takes an inordinate amount of trust. Then all of the different vendors we use to accomplish and help with the move-in take an inordinate amount of trust. So I think them being helpful, being educational, being open to, I can teach you that, knowing we're young or we're new at this, has also been super helpful.
Todd, I appreciate your vulnerability, and more importantly than that, your courage to share today, because I know that's going to inspire hundreds of other people, but also you're encouraged to take that big step, right, to become sober. So congratulations, man. That's awesome.
I appreciate it. It's a much better way to live, and I'm just elated that that's where I'm at on that path.
Well, praise God. I've heard a lot about Truth at Work. It's a fantastic organization.
Yeah. I can't say enough good about it. We always kind of joke whenever something comes up. I'm usually telling people that's the best check I write every month. So
Todd, if you had to pick 3 people in your business journey that you're most grateful for them being there for your overall business growth, who would they be, and how did they help you?
Good question. I'll start kind of current. So probably one of the more recent is a gentleman named Tony Celzo, who I think connected us. Yeah. I met Tony through another peer months ago, and we connected and then went ahead and started a business relationship so that Tony could help us grow. Tony's got some incredible skills as a growth coach. And, we had dabbled enough with the Halo idea after 3 years to kind of say, okay, I think we now have it set up. Now, how do we actually pour some gas on this? And I just think Tony has brought a real excellence in helping me expand my mind into so many different ways that you can grow nowadays. It's just, the variety and the areas that you have to think and speak into and be open to can just be a little overwhelming. So to have a partner kind of push and drive and help you drive that car who's been there has been fantastic. So Tony's certainly one. The Truth at Work group guys, I would treat them as one. We do a kind of once a year, we each get to kind of be highlighted, our business, our life, our family, everything. It is really an open door of, we're going to come at you to check you and make sure things are solid. In those meetings, you might have your whole little step 1, step 2 all set to present to them. And by the time they get done with the questions, they get to drive, so to speak. We're not going to talk about that because what we all heard was this, and this, and that's a lot higher priority than that. So it really challenges you to be open to that whole concept and the way it works. Yeah. And so they have been a fantastic group as an organization. And then certainly my wife, funny / crazy story. She ended up at some point leaving what she was doing in the real estate world and came to work with me. I don't know that she was ecstatic about where she was at the time. And I said, look, we can use the help. I mean, why don't you come if you got to be not happy? I'd rather you have come not be happy here. So, at least you're, supporting the family, et cetera. So, we did that with all of the best intentions, all the hearts are in the right place. But then as the world knows, I'm about to make a statement of, I'm sure half your audience flinched when they heard, oh my God, he's working with his wife. We learned and we figured out, together through counseling. And again, I had mentioned my recovery. And so I've already been a big proponent of counseling even before that. But over this last 4 years, we realized we're just not a great couple to work together. And so working through that, her always supporting my vision and my dream of that was super important. But just the fact that we now can grow together and grow to recognize that we're not really the best together and to work through it from a dialogue has been great. It certainly helped us grow as a couple. So even though there's still some, not fallout, but shrapnel laying around, it's stuff that we're able to talk through and walk through. So it'll only get better from here.
I coach a few different couple business owners, and the whole phrase of opposites attract is very true. And what I tell people, I have them do a DISC assessment, and 9 times out of 10 they are opposites. And so then I talk through, well, here's the good news and the bad news, right? The good news is your opposite completes you. So all of your deficiencies, your opposite partner is going to help fill in the gaps. The bad news is you're going to drive each other crazy in the work environment because it's right in your face every day.
Yes, that is exactly it. Where I just want to, and yes, we're very familiar with the DISC, and where I just want to touch on it, gloss on it, and vision right over it. She is an S and a C is like, hold on there. I need a little more detail.
Yes. And for whatever reason, we can take that opposite perspective much better from a colleague than we can our spouse.
Absolutely. It's, I said through, I don't know how many counseling sessions, I said, look, I'm probably just an average husband. Okay. So, or I'm probably just an average coworker. To think that I've got the skills to take that up to do both, I'm not buying into it. So the wife or the counselor, somebody's got to convince me that I got that in there somewhere. And yeah, ultimately I was just like, I think I just much rather have you as a wife and keep you than possibly lose both, a great employee and a better wife.
Very insightful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And I always say, hey, at least I erred on the right side, honey.
There you go.
I'd rather keep this thing alive.
Awesome.
No.
So Todd, as you think about the next 3 to 5 years, what are the biggest challenges you're going to face to reach your goals, and who are the types of people you're going to need to help you solve those challenges?
As a small business owner who's creating a platform, and then that's what Tony has helped me realize that's what we're doing. I think for us, it will be constantly being comfortable with testing sales pipelines, sales strategies, what works, what doesn't, modify. It'll be embracing, not trying to keep it perfect. Perfect's the opponent of profit. And so I will need to be a little more nimble. I think I'll also need to, from a personal standpoint, get a little more acumen with my finance, understanding the finances of small businesses that are trying to either grow or go down an equity path. So an area of finances is something I'm trying to get better at. Some of the how on that actually is I've reached out to one of my Truth at Work guys that I know specializes in some consulting for small businesses, and he's now retired. And so he's kind of made it available that, hey, I'm always, happy to partner up with you and give you some consistent guidelines on how to read the financials and what's important, what's not important. So I think that's going to be a big path for me. Hiring the right team, hiring the right people that complement me, that aren't like me. I don't need to hire a bunch of Todds. I need to be discerning enough to, even almost get a different feeling from somebody, but go, that's perfect, because I don't need any more of this in the company. I need, a lot of different viewpoints. And so that I think is going to be really interesting as Tony's helping us explore these sales channels. It's one of those where, any one of them could pop at a particular moment.
Right. And
so I think that really requires to be proactive in your planning, but to be able to balance, okay, how much time I give that planning before it actually happens, right, but to be ready and not be blindsided when it actually lands. So a bit of a dance there, a delicate dance.
Great perspective. I think your insights are so bang on. I use the analogy of building a high rise, right? So if the footings aren't poured and the foundation's not solid and we scale the building's going to topple over, right? So that same idea applies to a business, right? If we don't have those fundamentals in place and that solid foundation, and then the business starts to grow, right? Same ideas, it's going to topple over. So I love that you're focusing on that and making sure that you're building that solid foundation. Good for you.
Yeah, it's, if I could end one, or end that question with one bit of more info. My guys at Truth at Work, again, I said to them, look, at this point in my life, and I'm not young anymore, my interest is in building a kingdom business. I'm a firm believer that, God's the one who planted this halo idea along with Lisa Dillman. And so if that's his, how do I honor it and build a kingdom business? And so the guys were really emphasizing, I was trying to figure out, what is that? How does it look like? What is it? And one of them stopped me and said, well, that's what you're doing. You're already doing it because you're here taking 4 hours out of your business day with a group of Christian, you're already active in a Bible. That is so stop, stop thinking of checklists and just continue to make sure that, God is in your daily walk.
Yes.
And it will be a kingdom business. So
awesome perspective.
Yeah.
Jim Rohn. Love his books, just a tremendous business mind. One of his quotes is, we become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And we've been talking about this a little bit already with your at work. But when you think about that, is that something that excites you or makes you nervous from a business standpoint?
You know what? When I think of the 5, I think in the past, I think I was hard pressed to figure out who the 5 was. They're the usual suspects, but I was like, gosh, I don't feel like, because it's a small company and I'm the founder and we didn't have a big staff. I'm like, I don't know that I have the 5, but it's really in the last, I'll call it 6 months to a year that I think the 5 has started to build out. And so I'm very cognizant of each of those people's life, their personalities, how they live their life, from Tony to my wife to now an operations manager who I brought on. I think much differently as they get closer to me. I really get more in tune with, okay, what's the character of this person? How do they talk about their children? What's that? It's very rarely business conversation as much as it is me asking about them, their personality, their family, their parents, their upbringing, so that I can see, because we've always said, I've always been a big believer if I know about your family and your siblings and how you grew up, I'm probably 85% of the way there. I don't need to ask a typical interview question because I'll know the character that's producing all that talent. So,
yes.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting. We recently made a switch so that in our realty division, Halo Realty Group, EXP holds our brokerage license. And so that's only been about a few weeks in the making. And so we've joined a team at EXP that I'm really excited about. They're a larger team. And oddly enough, you talked about, Jim Rohn, one of the guys in our team high up was really instrumental and has worked with Jim in the past, Don Hobbs. So it'll be exciting to see how the 5 people start shaping out in what we do.
Fantastic. I hear from folks often that, hey, Tim, I don't have 5 people. So I'm excited for you that you are forming that. One of the things I share back is, well, hey, it doesn't have to be a physical person, right? Or an in-person person, right? It could be, what books are you reading, or what videos are you watching, or, what conferences are you going to? Because, those can be part of our circle of 5 is, right? Because they're still going to influence us and help change our thinking and our perspective. And so I just encourage everybody to make sure that we've got a learning plan, right? Something that we're continuing to invest in, right? Whether it's, things like you're doing with Truth at Work, a fantastic, part of your 5, but it could be just books that we're reading, or, people that we're studying and aspiring to be like.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because you're right. I think my first thought was, geez, I think I've got an influence of 1. It's my wife, it's like, God, do I need to get out, or, but very much to your point, I've got a group of men I work with at Truth at Work. I've got a Bible study group that I speak into, and they speak into me. And to your point about reading, between Audible and real books, that also, you're right. You just don't think about things. You think, closely and only about people. So I'm glad you mentioned that. It helps me think of my 5 in a much different way.
Awesome. So wrapping up here, last question. If there was something catastrophic that happened to your business today, Todd, who's the first person you'd call, and what would that conversation be?
Wow. I'd probably say Tony at this point, my growth coach, simply because I think of where we're at in our relationship. And I think he's far enough into us now to have solid input on whatever type of catastrophe that would be. The second one would probably be to the Truth at Work group. I'm so blessed there that there are that many different personalities and business experiences, and, to instantly plop down in a room with decades of business acumen. They've almost always seen or heard of whatever issue I'm about to bring to them. So they would probably be the second call. Maybe even the first.
So Todd, it sounds like you've been blessed with some incredible people in your journey who have helped you along the way. If they were all here on the show today, what would you want to say to them?
Oh, gosh. I'd say, first of all, that thanks probably isn't enough, but it's all I've got to offer. So from, the bottom of my heart, I would say I appreciate everything you've done for me and the grace that you've given me in all kinds of ways, from where I just fall down to the personality that's Todd. And I would just say that, nobody, like you said, nobody succeeds in a vacuum. And certainly the amount of support and tangible things they've done to help shape me and shape Halo, the business we're creating, is almost beyond recognition. So I would just say thanks from the bottom of my heart. They mean more than they would ever know.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Todd, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today, and appreciate you being on the show and being so incredibly vulnerable with us today. Just a true blessing to have you on today. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, Tim, I appreciate it. It's been fantastic. I've heard great things about the show, and I can't wait to see it. But it's been my pleasure. I'm glad I could spend the time with you.
Thank you so much. So for everyone that's tuned in today, thanks for listening to the Self-Made is a Myth show with your host, Coach Tim Campsell. Be sure to help us spread this movement by liking the show and posting about it on social media. To join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. Okay, folks, that's a wrap. Make sure to pay it forward, and I'll see you next time. Take care.